Hello, welcome to the One Chapter book. Thank you so much for joining me today, this lunchtime, or wherever you are in the world. I'm really excited about our book club today, as I'm going to be catching up with the fantastic Samantha Lee Howe. Sam joined us last year for one of our very first book clubs with the release of her psychological thriller, The Stranger in Our Bed. So today we'll be hearing about what she's been up to over this crazy year, and also, most importantly, all about her brilliant new series, The House of Killers. This series is absolutely amazing. Essentially, think Killing Eve meets Jason Bourne, if you haven't read it yet. So Sam also has some very exciting news to share with all of you, so get excited for that. And so please tag and invite any other family or friends that you think will love this discussion. As ever, you know, we love to hear from you, so please ask us lots of questions as well. But for now, please help me in welcoming Sam. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Mel. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. As I said, I was like, gosh, I can't believe it. You know, we did one of our very first book clubs together, like just over a year ago.
I can't believe that year's gone.
Well, I know. I mean, in some ways, like, thank God. I mean, I'm glad that we're kind of like in a step. I mean, we've, January to March was a bit of a hiccup, right? But like now it seems to be going towards a slightly different area, right?
Fingers crossed. I've got everything crossed.
Yeah.
This year's going to be a lot better than last year.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and yeah, hi to everyone out there joining us. Please say hello and let us know where you're joining us from. But so Sam, where are you joining us from?
I'm in lovely Lincolnshire. Very flat county here. The weather's not so great. It's not as sunny as it has been, but it's not a bad day today. Still, we've got, it's nice enough to be sat out here in my orangery.
Lovely spot. Yeah, it's also, I'm in London. It's a bit cloudy, but I think I caught the sun a bit on the weekend. So I'm a little bit. So that's all right. It's all right.
Even getting outside at any point is just amazing, isn't it?
I know, exactly. Yeah. Have you been to any shops or outdoor restaurants yet? So
I haven't been out shopping. I've been to beauty parlour, got my colour back in.
Yeah.
I had my nails done. That was essential. First week I could. And last Saturday, actually, my husband and I did get out to, we went to a local pub restaurant. Obviously, the seating was all outside, and it was lovely to go and do that. It was really amazing. It felt like a little bit like normality, seeing people at a distance, laughing and joking and having a good time. And it was amazing.
Yeah,
best one ever.
Exactly. It's just like nice to just see people out and about a bit again. Oh, Savannah's just said hello, and she's watching from Melbourne, Australia. Hi, Savannah. Oh, amazing. That's wow. Much further afield, and I guess Melbourne's doing different things as well to over here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, amazing. What's the weather like in Melbourne? Probably this time of year. Probably pretty nice. Very nice, I'd say. Amazing.
What time of day would it be there as well? What time?
I think it would be about 10 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah.
10 in the evening. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Amazing. But brilliant. So here to talk about, excitingly, your brand new series, The House of Killers. I'm so excited. And yeah, it's like, just as I said earlier, it's just, Killing Eve meets Jason Bourne. Like, there's just nothing cooler, in my opinion, than that combination. So I wondered if you could tell us a bit about the story of your new series, The House of Killers, for everyone out there.
Definitely. Yeah, certainly. The House of Killers is about an assassin called Neva who suddenly becomes self-aware, shall we say, when she is forced to kill one of her colleagues, and she starts to face the future for herself and realizes that the career that she has, the only way out one day will be, in 6 foot under. And this is a bit of a wake-up call for her. Also, there's sort of two stories going along, because there's also the story of Michael, who's in the first person, who is an MI5 security agent
Michael Kensington.
Yeah, Michael Kensington.
Great name.
Michael is an interesting and complicated character because he's had a series of failed relationships, generally due to his job because he can't trust people quite the same. And also, there's hints that his childhood wasn't quite as easy and as normal as it should have been. And they come together, and that's when the fireworks really start to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just such a, obviously, thriller, but also there's that sort of romance, or is there, there's all the drums.
There's a little bit of romance. It's unusual for me to write any. But I think it's, but it isn't the be all and end all of the story, but it is definitely, relationships are very important within a novel to make characters seem realistic and believable and give them depths. And in this case, the relationship between Neva and Michael is very, it's a catalyst in a way for both of them, and brings about changing both of them, which is really important to the development of the story and the development of their characters throughout the series.
Yeah, which I found really interesting. And one of the, I guess it's kind of, well, maybe it was the characters, I'm not sure. I wondered kind of what inspired you to write this series, and then was it the characters come first? They're so integral as well.
Yeah, it was interesting, but it was almost the character of Neva was born first, and I was actually inspired by my previous editor, Finn Cotton, who you know, who used to work for One More Chapter, and he said to me at Harrogate, actually, and in 2018, Harrogate Crime Fest, I said, "What are you looking for next?" And he said to me, "I'd love something that's like Killing Eve," and I'm like, "I could do that, but I'll do it different. It won't be Killing Eve. It will be." A different story altogether, and it is, although that's the kickoff point for it, and we can liken it to that. Obviously, it's an original character, and Neva is in very many ways very different from Villanelle. But it was Neva that created the book for me in the first place, and it was her, the opening line where I go, "When she wakes," in the opening line. That was the first line came to me, and then her narrative was just born from that line. And so it's when Neva wakes, she sees her own reflection in, a skylight, and that just was it. What is she seeing? Who is she? Who is this person that's revealed? And then it just developed naturally like that for me. And then obviously Michael came into it, and the complexity of other characters came into it that end up naturally building a story. At the time when I wrote the first book, I wasn't sure whether I was going to be doing a series. But I knew when I got to halfway through it, there would be more. I just knew there would be more.
That's really interesting. And is that because partially, obviously, in a lot of ways, Neva is the heart. Is that because her story and her character develops so much?
She goes through quite a journey. She changes from somebody who is really cold and emotionless, and ends up with some very, very, very deep reaction to emotionally to different situations, and to see that character develop from that after what she's been through, which I won't be saying right now in case there's anybody on here that hasn't read the book yet. I don't want to do any spoilers, but from her origins, where she came from, how she became who she was, are all actually crucial to what she becomes, and then how she develops later on as well when she breaks down from that and breaks away from that. So yes, it was very important. In many ways, it's kind of although it's a very fast-paced action story, it's also something of a character study in some ways as well, I think.
Yeah, exactly, definitely. And that's the thing. A lot of a lot of the reviews talk a lot about the amazing characters and everything. Do you find that a character is often the sort of starting point for a lot of other books as well?
Yeah, for me, they certainly are. I think without, you can't have character without good story, and you can't have story without good character. But characters have to be the heart of a story. They have to be what draws you in there. You have to care about them as a reader. Otherwise, what's the point of taking that journey with them? I always think often about stories like Columbo, where you reveal right at the beginning who is the killer. And it's not so much a whodunit as a whydunit. and you go all the way through, but you watch that because you want to know why they did it. Again, it's a Shakespeare ploy as well to reveal the end, two star-crossed lovers take their lives, sort of thing. But you follow that journey because you want to see how that happens. So I think in many ways, a lot of what I do, it is about pulling the reader to believe and want to follow the journey with the reader, no matter where we start from that. You know, I don't want to lose them at any point. Hard to do. keep working on that.
Definitely. I mean, you do it amazingly well. Amazingly well.
Thank you.
Yeah. And just to comments, Savannah is a Melbourne author. Lovely. Amazing. Great to have you join us. If please, I'm going to keep going through my questions, but everyone, please ask questions as well, as we love to hear from you. But I also, so touching on, obviously, continuing to talk about the series, I found it so interesting that you went into the spy thriller genre as well, and I just wondered how did you approach writing on it, and writing it, and did the process differ a lot from the other genres that you write in? Because I know you write in a lot of other genres as well.
I think generally speaking, thriller writing is a lot harder than writing I used to do, which was horror. And horror and fantasy is hard in a different way because you have to come up with a great deal of imaginative and creative circumstances, but you can also have a supernatural reason for why things happen. With thriller writing, I discovered that this is, you've got to really be realistic. You've got to be very believable. And the spy thriller stuff, for me, the amount of research that I did for this series, you would not believe. I'm always like, you don't always put every bit of research in that you do, but what you should do is you research around a subject, and hopefully it reflects within the writing when you do it. And so it was harder, but I have, along the way, I found myself a few consultants that are willing to give me information and help me.
Some spy consultants.
Well,
oh my goodness! Wow, did you just call up MI5 like, hey?
Be on this serious now. I have got my sources, and I also found that people were willing to talk to me about weaponry. That they were, weapon companies that make weapons were willing to talk to me about things like that. And so therefore I was able to not just do research online, like looking at weapons going, but actually was talking through how you would use this weapon, and how the wind and things might affect the bullet, and so the distance and the weather can affect how far the bullets will travel, etc. And so all of that was absolutely fascinating research. I even learned a lot about hijacking planes, but that comes into book 2. So
very classic.
Teaser there for book 2.
No, but one of my questions, which maybe we'll jump to a little bit, I'm really fascinated by this research area that you've done, is just tell us more about how you approached it, and where did you even start?
Well, originally I started just by Googling, and then I got an introduction to somebody who was really helpful. And this person has become a consultant. He is a consultant and does actually talk to writers, a lot of writers, I think, about this, and helps writers. He's given me a lot of information, just even casual comments about, how spies do the wet work. It's like a word like that, wet work. Oh yes, we know what that means. And even thinking about how it is to one of the great things he said to me once is that he said that when somebody is where they shouldn't be, and they're carrying a clipboard and wearing a hard hat, nobody ever queries who they are and what they're doing there, because they're technically hiding in plain sight. So this is something that I do play with within the book as well. And so in a way, just talking to people who are in the know and can help you. And plus also, I live in the middle of Spook Central here. So RAF Digby's just up the road from me, and Waddington, and I'm literally surrounded by it. So I kind of by accident absorb you're passing them. So I pick up things, and I did a lot of research as well online about the bases, and I'm hoping at some point I will get a tour. But I have been told I can have a tour of a weapons factory. So I'm going to, you know, when we're all allowed to do it, which is, you know, down south some way. So when we're allowed to do that, I am going to go and do a tour of a weapons factory and look at the gun that I'm using in book 2 and basically kill it, hopefully.
But yeah, like when you were doing this, like you said, you touched on you know, the hiding in plain sight and everything. Were you then did you start to see people around, or like are you now like more observant almost? Like are you spotting things?
I've always been a bit sort of observant that way anyway. I always watch people. I mean, people watching is a really big, important thing when you're a writer, I think. But I do actually find myself making up little scenarios now about people. What are they doing there? You know, that's a bit odd. What they're just, they're trying to not, you know, are they looking inconspicuous? Is that because they are conspicuous? You know, you know, it's an interesting thing. One of the thoughts that came through my head when I first started to research this, I was also watching the program Homeland a great deal before I started watching. I saw the whole series of that before I started to write this, and I found out a lot of things. And I found that one day when I think I was coming to your offices. I think it was when we all first met for the first time, and I was actually in King's Cross Station. And there was a lot of people, and I'd been absorbing all of this stuff about, you know, bombs and everything on Homeland. And I'm looking around going, oh, suspicious behaviour, you know, actually seriously, actively watching people, because I've become massively aware of, especially because they really highlight terrorism on that programme a lot. And I was like, wow, you know, anybody could be anybody here, you know. And it does make you, when you start to dip into these things, a little bit more sensitive to the awful things that can go on. I've learned a lot about black hat hackers as well, and it's hard to say, especially if you're not sober. But you know, I've heard a lot about those, and you go, the evil that these people do.
Yeah, well, that's it. And there's so many different kinds of espionage as well, which you like. How did you sort of, I guess, decide even what what avenue to go down? Like you say, there's almost so much, isn't there?
Yes, there is. And I guess I wanted to make an obscure sort of conglomerate, powerful party. And I'm a great believer in the fact that money and corporations particularly can be incredibly powerful. I mean, they're in a position to lobby governments, they're in a position to give people backhanders.
Absolutely. They can be quite secretive about what they do because they're not in the public.
Exactly. And so I was under the, you know, I wanted to create, you know, a company, if you like, the network, as we call them in this, who were this very powerful organisation, but not only powerful, but not just prepared to bribe people to get what they want, but they're prepared to kill for it as well. And I guess that's why I decided to go down that route, because I also wanted it to be different from other programs and other books that are out there that are, you know, going down the MI5 route, the spooks route, or they're doing the Killing Eve route. You know, I wanted them to be different. I wanted it to be their motivations, their machinations were different to what we've seen before. And in this case, they're building this powerful army, which you know about. So, you know, and again, where ultimately will all that end? You know, are they going to be the ultimate sort of
exactly
group?
I found that so interesting because it's like you know, you might think, oh, well, that's the sort of thing that I guess there's, you know, that sort of network is something that happens, you know, you often think it happens something more far-fetched than like a Marvel movie or something like this, but it, you know, it actually could really happen. And I love that you explore that through the sort of, like like spy thriller lens. Really
I think anything can happen, and I think in fiction, I think it's our job almost to realise, or you know, an expectation of what could happen and explore what could happen. I always think about Star Trek, the original series, when I think about inventions in fiction, and of course that's obviously a science fiction show. But when we think about the communicators that they had, and now we have mobile phones that became these flip phones very soon, in the 80s, and the series was made in the 60s. It's almost a writer's, by default, we almost invent things by not, by using our imagination of what could possibly happen.
Yeah.
And it's easy to do in science fiction and fantasy because you can really go anywhere you want with that. But in thrillers, yes, I like to speculate on how evil people can be. I really like to look at the dark side of people, even though I'm quite a sunny personality.
Yeah.
I just love to look into psychology of people and how they behave in certain situations.
Absolutely. And yeah, like on that, for my, our two key protagonists, Michael and Neva, they've very interesting psychologies themselves. Like, did you do a lot of research into the type of the sort of the psychology that sort of what's brought them to be who they are now, and
I think it's an interesting process that I go through when I'm creating a character, and you almost know everything about them, but not right away. And so as you write them, they reveal themselves to you. And then what you do is afterwards, when you come to you finished a book, you go back and you edit it and you go, actually, they've done that at the end here, so their behaviour there doesn't work anymore. Usually I'm pretty, the shape of it's come together anyway, but then you've got that opportunity to then build in a little bit more that makes them a bit more believable. So in a way that, yes, they are research because of how much I study people, but not technically in terms of real life people in those jobs, because obviously that I haven't got access to, but more of what I imagine people in those jobs would have. And everybody, whoever they are, has a personal life. Whatever job they do, they have a personal life. Even an MI5 security agent will have a personal life, whatever that is. His colleague is married with children, for example, Bethany. And so, they have, they've all got a world of their own outside of the job. And in fact, the job, but they have a different kind of job to anything that any of us normal people, shall we say, would ever experience, because they're seeing a part of life that we will never, ever see, except in fiction.
Yeah, and that's the point. They don't want us to see it, right?
They don't want us to see it, absolutely not. And the point is, their job is there to protect us from seeing it. And be that in exploring, in terms of how planes are hijacked, for example, or threats of bombing or terrorist threats of any sort, or even at cyber attacks that they deal with on a day-to-day basis, people in those jobs. I don't think we could, obviously some of my research has revealed some of this to me, but I don't think we would want to know, truthfully, all of what goes on, because you might feel a little bit scared. Well, what really went on.
Absolutely. But at the same time, on the flip, and this is one of my questions here, we're still so intrigued by the idea of them, and we want to know what's going on at the same time, even though, as you say, it wouldn't be good for us. But yeah, why do you think we're so intrigued by the idea of spooks and spies?
I think it's a slightly romantic view we've got of them. Probably born from the days of James Bond, who basically in the books, of course, he's not as sort of fun and tongue-in-cheek as the early films of Bond were. But and often he wouldn't always save the girl. He'd only do it if he felt like it, So, whereas the films we see of it have romanticized the character quite a bit, and also you think that these are powerful people, and they are in their own little world. They are powerful people, so power is always attractive. But also, I think we really love to explore looking at spy things. And me, certainly, I love spy movies and spy books, and I love reading thrillers of any sort. And I think it's because you can be slightly scared and follow the journey and go through the sense of threat that the people in the books are going to go through, but you're doing it at a safe distance. And it's not really going to affect your life, but you can enjoy the thrill of it, if you know what I mean. I think that's what you get out of fiction anyway.
Or be like, oh, I'm so glad you do this job, not me.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Thanks so much.
Stuff thinking, oh, I'd hate to be in that position.
Yes, just
Makes
not
you feel
ideal.
better about your own life.
Yeah. Absolutely. And kind of, I feel like I kind of jumped through this, but I meant to delve a bit more deeply into like, how did you enjoy like writing this genre more than your others, or was it harder, or like what do you think? Are you going to write more spy thrillers like after the series, or?
It's interesting. I'm still sort of waiting on the reaction to it from everybody in a way. I absolutely did enjoy writing it. I'll be honest with you, like most writers, I was full of self-doubt as to whether I'd done a good job of it. I was, it was always a worry all the way along. And until my agent saw it and told me it was great, I didn't feel very secure at all.
No, and look at all the brilliant reviews.
The reviews are fabulous. I'm so happy with them. It really makes you realise that you've not missed the mark, which is so great. And it was a great fun experience doing the research around it and learning things that I didn't know. And delving into that little bit of the darkness there to show into the books. But also I just like every book I write, I loved creating the characters and the world building. World building is such an exciting thing for me. You go, how does it feel to live in this world? And you want to try and put that across. It's so easy and effortless and so sort of like natural. That's the trick. And hopefully.
No, definitely. And exactly. And you've totally done that. And it must just be it's also interesting because it's like it is old rather than it being a fantasy, but kind of thing, because it's obviously these things happen. But yeah, it must, because we don't know much about it, it must have done a lot of world building to sort of set that all up.
Definitely did and enjoyed doing it, and enjoyed getting to know the characters as well, and absolutely loved. In fact, it was the strangest thing. The first book was quite hard to write. The second book and the third book were easy because I already know who the characters were, and at that point I even knew where each book was going to go. Because in my head it was already, I think I've said this when we did the last book club, I plot in my head more than anything. But with this one, I found I was writing myself chapter notes because I had to keep so very, very tight rein.
You've got to keep on top of all of the different threads and everything.
Definitely.
Did you how did you plot that very thoroughly then? Or because I know that you like to just, like we said in the last book club, you just write, which is
I'm a pantser. I'm still a pantser, but there was definitely, when I finished one chapter, or I would write myself a note for the next 3 saying this and this has to happen. It'd be just a line on a piece of scrap of paper by the side of my laptop going, that chapter such as this has got to happen, chapter such as that. And also because I was in different people's heads as well. So sometimes I'm in Neva's head, sometimes we're in Michael, sometimes we're in Bethany's, sometimes we're in different characters' heads. I actually wanted to map out a balance of whose stories we were telling as well. So to do that actually reminded me that I needed to write another chapter about such a person next, or where they were. And so there was a structural situation with this that was structurally different for me to do it this way, because I usually just write totally chronologically, as it were, and the story comes out. But I'm finding more and more as I'm writing the thrillers, I am doing a lot more. It's getting a lot more complicated, and hopefully avoiding convoluted.
Yeah, no, definitely. I guess it's all the plan, the reveals and everything else. It's all gotta put that all together. But
That's
amazing.
right.
Amazing. But yeah, speaking of your other books, as I say here more, that your writing is made for screen. As I've said before many times, the House of Killers whole series is so cinematic, and so see it as a TV series, particularly someday. But I know you've got some other very exciting film news. As I said, I meant to actually remove we'll discuss this for a bit, but so can you tell us what your exciting film news is?
Yeah, sure. I mean, last year had a very, very exciting year. I mean, we all had a very exciting year in a bad way, but I had a kind of a bittersweet year, because a lot of exciting things were happening with the books, particularly The Stranger in Our Bed, which in August got sold for film rights. And I also wrote the screenplay, and the film was shot very quickly. It was shot in November and December. So The Stranger in Our Bed is now going to be a film, and it's starring Samantha Bond, a former Moneypenny, talking about James Bond.
Yeah.
Emily Berrington from Humans, and her husband Ben Lloyd Hughes, who you might know from Divergent and Industry, is something he's in recently. And they're playing Charlotte and Tom, so the married couple, which is great.
Yeah.
And we've also got the wonderful Nina Wadia, who's playing Mrs. Tanner, and Joseph Marcel from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, who's playing Stefan, who's the chauffeur. But quite a lot of great name characters, and lots and lots of other people in there, like Andy Osho, Paul Cassar, playing parts in there. And it was just so incredible. Even my husband and I got a cameo in it, so as long as we don't end up on the cutting room floor.
Can't wait to hear. But just tell me a bit more about like writing the screenplay as well, which I think that's quite from my understanding of often, like, film adaptations, that often is quite rare for the author to write the screenplay as well. But that's incredible.
Absolutely.
That you've done it. Yeah,
absolutely is. I mean, I do have a degree in creative writing, master's degree, and I also have a degree in English and writing for performance, specialising in screen. So I had got a qualification in screenwriting, and I had done a Doctor Who spin-off miniseries before, so I wasn't completely a newbie to screenwriting. So I knew the process. I do have all the right software, and I am often dabbling with that anyway, writing my own little screenplays on the side. So I've not been able to do that lately because I've been really busy. But lots of books. Too busy writing books. So the interesting thing about adapting your own story is that I was very aware of the fact that some things wouldn't make it into the screenplay, and that you do have to be, you do have to change things to make things work for screen. Obviously, we were also faced with the COVID circumstances. So some scenes had to be changed a little bit with that in mind, because we couldn't have big crowds, for example. And again, because the book takes place over a 2-year period, in a movie, in a thriller movie, that doesn't really work. So we kind of crashed the timeline. So there were some different things that I had to do. But also, it was great because when you're doing a screenplay, you're also working very collaboratively with the director and with the producer. And originally, I started working with the producer, Terry Dwyer, and I gave her my first drafts. And then she would come back with this amazing feedback in which I'd rewrite. And all the time, what everybody's concern was that we remained true to the book, but also aware that things have to be changed. And that's something that I was very accepting of. And actually, it was a really good learning curve, a great process. I'm raring to do it again. Hopefully, House of Killers. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm just raring to do it again. I absolutely loved it. And I'm, hoping to see it. At the moment, the film is cut. It's in sound design at the moment. I haven't seen the finished product yet. Oh my word!
But you went on set one time, didn't you?
I did see. Yeah. Oh, it was brilliant. I did see certain scenes being made. And a particularly brilliant scene that I really, really wanted to see was actually being made the first night that I was there. And I was watching on this monitor, because they were Emily and Ben were in the bedroom doing a scene together with Charlotte and Tom, and I'm watching through this monitor, and it was for a while I was feeling nothing. I was sort of feeling a little bit out of it. If you know. Like
such an odd experience as well to kind of like see these characters that were in your head there, sort of.
That's it. And it doesn't always sink in. You just go, when you're living in the moment of something, you don't always appreciate it till afterwards. And actually I was stood there going, oh, this is all so exciting, and watching on the screen. And then I just had a moment and I thought, oh my God, it really hit me. I looked at my husband, who was behind me. He was sort of videoing me watching the screen. He was taking pictures of me, and I pulled down my COVID mask and I went, "That's my film." And he went, and he said, "You've only just realised." I went, "That's my film." And I was tearing up. I was so emotional, and then it was lovely because, like, Ben and Emily were so sweet, and they were coming down. "Oh my God, you're the writer! Oh, thank you for writing this great screenplay for us." And I'm going. They're thanking me. They're thanking me for writing this. Sam Bond said the same to me, and I was just like, "This is just."
Tell
incredible.
us a bit about what Samantha Bond said to you, because I know that's a lovely little moment as well.
It was. I mean, I arrived at at this big manor house where they were filming for the first 2 weeks. And I walked, and there was this nice lady stood there with a mask on, didn't realise who it was. And I went, and she said, "Oh, can I help you?" I said, "I'm looking for Terry, looking for the producer." And she went, "Oh, hi." And I went, "You're Samantha Bond." She went, "Yes." So I said, "I'm Sam as well. I'm the writer." And she went, "Oh," she said, "Oh, I'm so pleased to meet you." She said, "Thank you for writing me such a great part." And I went, "No, thank you."
That's just amazing. Like, could you ever imagine? Yeah, Samantha Bond thanking you for writing a character. It's like, it's just incredible.
It was incredible. It was, and everybody was the whole cast and crew. Everyone was so complimentary about the screenplay, and they were saying, "Oh, it's a really great screenplay. This is really good." And I'm like, "Wow, wow, they really think it's good, and they're professionals. They've done this before,
It's just a bit. I mean, you're destined for Hollywood, right?
Here we come.
No, but it's huge. So excited. So yeah, hopefully, it will be out at some point this year is the plan.
I'm hoping so. I mean, obviously, as soon as we know and we can announce, we'll let that news out. I'll be delighted to tell everyone.
That's just so amazing. I mean, all this brilliant, exciting stuff. But going back to the House of Killers, obviously the first book is out now, and then the second book in the series is coming out shortly as well, isn't it?
I think it's the 29th of May off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. And then the third is out 23rd of July. So not long to wait.
Yeah. So it's the year of Sam, as I like to refer to it in my head. There'll be so many exciting things. But speaking of which, I'm now onto my some finalish question, which is more about if you could tell us a little bit about what you're working on now. If there's any other, I mean, always new projects. I know.
I'm always working. I mean, at the moment, I'm actually compiling a charity anthology for a charity that I'm very, very proud to be involved with. It's called Power, and they are the leading advocacy charity in the UK. And I'm proud to be one of their patrons. So I'm actually compiling this anthology in the hope that we'll find a nice home for it and that they will earn the royalties on it. And I'm dead excited to say that lots and lots of lovely writers are donating their stories for this. And it's at the moment provisionally called the Power Book of Crime. So it will be, hopefully, it will be a nice success for the charity, which is I'm hoping for. So.
Yeah, such a nice. I remember you saying you just joined it, and that's such an amazing initiative for them to set that all up. When do you think it will come out?
Well, we're still in the process of gathering all the stories. I've given everybody sort of a deadline of end of June. So I've got some back already, and they're all amazing. So just based on what I've got already is going to be it's going to be mind-blowing anthology. So hopefully after that I might have a bit more of an idea of where it's going to go, where it's going to be, how we're going to publish it, basically, in order to maximise.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing I'm working at the moment. I'm obviously writing another book as well, but I'm always doing that.
Yeah, is that more spy thriller, psychological thriller?
I think it's sort of more of a revenge story, the one I'm working on at the moment. So
good.
And it's becoming a bit crime procedural. So you know me, I just don't ever do the same book twice.
Okay, now we're going into crime procedural. Love it. Different, they're all these are all iterations of the same, like similar things, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They are. I mean, they're all sort of linked. I mean, to me, it's everything I've ever written has always had a mystery behind it. There's always been a mystery within the story. So all of it just seems a slight little sidestep here. But I definitely want to do some more psychological, because I absolutely love doing that. I mean, especially because I love exploring character so much that, more psychological will definitely be on the cards. And and if people really like House of Killers, and when the whole trilogy's out, hopefully there might be some more of that as well. Just have to see how it all goes. I'm open to anything.
Amazing. Always lots and lots to look forward to. Just love all your books, Sam. So thank you so much for reading them. Brilliant. So it's kind of through our questions for the book club, and I think there's people have been quite quiet, because we've had a bunch of people who've been listening, so that's nice. But well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me today, Sam, and it's been brilliant to catch up and hear about all of your very exciting film news, but especially all about your brand new series, The House of Killers, which has been,
thank you so much.
It's just an incredible series. So I can't wait for everyone else to read it as well.
I can't either. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it as well, guys. So please, if you've read it, do put reviews up, because we really need them. We really value reviews and your opinions. So thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Sam, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And we'll see you all again very soon.
Thanks so much, Mel.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Lovely to see you.
Bye. Lovely to see you. Bye. Bye.